Hi guys, tonight's lesson is lesson 67 and we are writing tenths and hundredths as decimal numbers. So in this lesson we will write fractions with denominators of 10 or 100 and turn them into decimal numbers. So as we see here, we have a denominator of 10 and it can be written as 1/10. This is what it looks like as a fraction, 1/10. And this is what it looks like as a decimal. So this is what we're going to be doing with 10 as our denominator and 100 as our denominator. Alright, so our very first example says, write 3/10 as a fraction. Then write it as a decimal number. So go ahead and pause your video and see if you can do it by yourself first. Alright, and first I'm going to write it as a fraction. 3/10. We know that that looks like 3, and tenths tells me 10 is my denominator. So this is what my fraction is going to look like. Now, when we're dealing with 10, we know that it's going to just be one place behind the decimal point. And whatever our numerator is a number that is going to go behind that decimal point. So if I say this out loud to you, 3/10, in your head you should also be thinking that it looks like this, 3/10. So if it's a 10, there's just going to be, as your denominator, there's going to be one number behind the decimal point, and it's going to be whatever your numerator is. So 3/10 as a fraction also looks like this as a decimal. Alright, on to the next example. And it says, a portion of this square is shaded. Name the shaded portion as a fraction and then again as a decimal. Now, I tried my best. That square is broken into 10 equal pieces. So think of it that way. And if I know you might not be able to tell, but 4 of these pieces are shaded. So go ahead and try it yourself. Alright, so if I look at it, I'm trying to make a fraction with the shaded portion. So my bottom number, my denominator, tells me how many pieces it is out of. And I told you that I have 10 equal pieces. Then my numerator is how many pieces I have. And I want to name the shaded part. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4. 4. So this would be my fraction, and it is read as 4/10. So if I want to write that as a decimal, I look and I say, okay, the denominator is a 10, so I know it's only going to have one place after the decimal point. So then I'm going to put my decimal point. Whatever my numerator is what goes behind the decimal. And it looks like that. 4/10 can be written as 4/10. Alright, and now we're going to do example number 3. And it says, name the number of shaded circles as a mixed number and a decimal. Okay, so I can tell you that this circle is out of 10 equal pieces and 1 is shaded. So go ahead and try that by yourself. You're going to write a decimal and a mixed number for the shaded parts of those circles. Alright, and we've been doing this a lot in class where we have to write a mixed number based off of squares and circles. And if we look here, we have one whole. So I would write my one whole. And then my mixed number, this circle is out of 10. So how many pieces is it out of? And how many pieces do I have? I have 1 shaded. So it would look like 1 and 1/10 would be my mixed number. Then, if I want to change that to a decimal, it's just like we did before, but now I have a whole number. And my whole number is just going to be my number before my decimal point. And I look over here, what's my numerator? My numerator is a 1. So it can look like this, as a mixed number, 1 and 1/10, or as a decimal, 1 and 1/10. Alright, on to example number 4. Write 12 hundredths as a fraction and a decimal. Okay, so now instead of dealing with tenths, we're dealing with hundredths. And so instead of just having 1 place after the decimal, we are now talking about 2 places after our decimal point. So I'm going to just give you a few examples before we do this one. If I have 3 over 100, so 3 hundredths, I know I'm going to have 3 decimal points, and I only have 3. So this becomes a 0 and this becomes a 3. And if you were to read that decimal, you would say 3/100ths, which is 3 out of 100. Another example, let's say I had 97 over 100. Okay, now because it's 100, I know I'm talking about 2 decimal points after the decimal. 2 places. So this would look like my decimal point and then a 9 and a 7. Because 97 is almost 100, it's almost 1. And this decimal is almost 1. So we would read this 97/100ths, and we would read this decimal as 97/100ths. So go ahead and try 12/100ths as a fraction and a decimal. Alright, if I have 12/100ths, it would look like this. And I know that I have 100, so I'm talking about those 2 decimal places after my decimal. So I'm going to draw my decimal point, and I would write 1 and 2. Okay, and the last example. Write 4 3/100ths as a decimal number. So they have given me my mixed number here, and I want to write a decimal. Well, just as we had done before in example 3, we are going to have to use 4. This is going to be our whole number. So I'm going to write 4, and now I'm going to talk about my decimal place and what comes after the decimal. So like we did before, I have 3 over 100. So I know I'm talking about 2 places after my decimal point, and I only have 3. So this becomes a 0. I don't have nothing in the tens place, and this becomes a 3 in the hundredths place. So 0/10ths and only 3/100ths, and we would read this fraction as 3/100ths. Alright, and your lesson practice. Take these numbers, write the fractions as decimal numbers. So A is 6 2/10ths, B is 3 45/100ths, C is 2 8/10ths, and D is 10 61/100ths.